Hey friends, it's been a minute. Things have been heavy, and I've been struggling to show up in life, much less online. Back in February, I picked up my phone and impulsively filmed some footage during a rough mental health weekend, but I've been struggling to edit and post it. I think it feels self-centered to share a video like this, and I've had second thoughts about it, but I also think a lot of us are feeling this way right now. Heavy, discouraged, overwhelmed by the weight of the world. And probably a lot of us feel isolated in those feelings, but that's not true. You're not alone. I'm not alone. I put this out there because I think it's good practice for me in being honest and vulnerable that I'm struggling. I also think it's needed to have more real content out there. The internet is such a curated space, and most of what we see is not real or it's not the full picture. Idealized or romanticized videos can be great and aspirational or motivating as well, but if that's all we see, it's not the best. So here's a video of me battling my brain for 2 days. I hope it makes you feel less alone. Hi friends, how's everybody doing? If your answer is not great, you certainly are not the only one. There's so much really horrible and frankly downright evil shit happening right now, and it's heavy. It's Saturday, it's like 4 o'clock, and Zelda is zooming around right now, in case you can hear that. Had some intense, scary family stuff happen yesterday. I didn't sleep till like 4 a.m. I slept in way too late. I've just been struggling mental health wise. Anyway, I'm struggling to do anything. I'm struggling to feed myself. I'm just feeling very depressed and very anxious, and basically I just want to sleep all day. I would really love to just not be conscious right now, but that's not healthy. So anything I can do today is a win. Anything I can do to take care of myself, to take care of my space, to take care of somebody else is a win. So here it is. As I talk about it, I'm getting more and more anxious about it, but I'm just gonna hit record and see what happens. And then I think I'm just gonna pick one task at a time and try to just slowly but surely get a few things done to care for myself, to care for my space. Let's get started. We have seed babies. This is why I grow plants. For days like today, when everything feels horrible and hopeless and bad. And then I see a tiny little seed growing a plant. A little baby plant, and I feel like I can make it through another day. This is why you should grow plants. The first big thing I tackled today was figuring out groceries. When I'm struggling with my mental health, food can be really difficult for me. It feels silly or embarrassing to admit, but honestly, just feeding myself when I'm in a bad place mentally can be super challenging. My appetite gets weird, I don't want to eat food, nothing feels appetizing, I get really in my head about whether what I'm eating is quote unquote good enough, and then I get really anxious and I overanalyze and I don't want to eat anything because it all just feels overwhelming and food doesn't feel right. One of the things that I have personally found helpful to get through this, especially if I'm by myself and I don't have my husband to rely on for helping me plan and cook, is ordering groceries online. If I go into a store and have to deal with picking out food alongside all the sensory overload of being around people and physically surrounded by food when I'm already in kind of a raw state, it can make the situation even worse. So by ordering online, it removes some of that overwhelm of physically being in a store trying to pick out food, but then I'm still getting the benefit of getting food in my house and leaving the house to pick up that grocery order. Here's the grocery haul. I looked up a recipe for tonight because I'm feeling overwhelmed. So I'm gonna use the ground chicken and some of the veggies to do some coconut rice with ground chicken and sweet potato. I got some easy snacks to just grab. These are kind of expensive per piece, but especially when I'm having bad weeks or bad days, this is something I pretty much always can just grab if I'm not feeling like food. So I got some of that. I got some canned chicken just to have on hand for easy go-to protein. I got a bunch of eggs. I'm gonna try to make a breakfast casserole tomorrow so that I don't have to think about breakfast too hard. And then I just got some other veggies and fruits to have around to try to snack on. And I got one fun snack for tonight. This is what happens when you don't check the refrigerator before you go to the store. We now have a gazillion eggs, so I could have sworn we had none left. Here we go. Come here. Come here. There's nothing else in there, bud. You gotta sit if you want this food. Sit. Wait. 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 Good boy. I'm starting a load of laundry because for me this can be a task that helps me get out of being stuck and frozen and struggling to do anything. You might absolutely hate doing laundry, and I think everybody has different tasks that feel easy or difficult for them, but whether it's laundry or something else, the principle applies that finding a task that feels easy and that gives a little bit of momentum can help us get moving and get a little traction to start getting out of being super stuck and frozen when struggling with a bad mental health flare. The same thing goes for me for tidying up and doing dishes. This is something I find a little bit easier when I'm really struggling, so I'm moving on to this. I'm also choosing to do this task because I want to cook a meal after this, and that feels much less daunting if I have a clean kitchen to work in. My final task for the day is going to be cooking a meal. As I mentioned, this can be something that's hard for me to initiate when I'm feeling anxious, depressed, exhausted, etc. But I know this is going to help me feel so much better than if I don't fuel my body properly. I got myself moving with some easier tasks, and now I have a little bit of momentum going into this. Something that makes this easier for me is finding a recipe to follow that looks inspiring but is relatively simple and uncomplicated. I'm making this coconut chicken and sweet potato recipe from the New York Times. I'll link the recipe down below if you'd like to follow it yourself. This has subsequently become one of my current go-to recipes. It's really delicious and easy to make, and I find it really appetizing even if I'm not feeling super hungry. Having instructions to follow, along with the nature of cooking tasks like chopping being pretty repetitive, is also helpful for my brain because I'm accomplishing something, but it's kind of meditative and I don't have to think too much. What's up, sweet boy? You already ate dinner, buddy. Where's mine? I'm cooking, bud. I can't play with you and cook at the same time. I don't know what you need, bud. I'm not gonna feed you again. You already ate. Come on. All right, it's Sunday morning. I am still feeling anxious, still struggling mentally, but I definitely feel better today than yesterday. And I think that's because I figured out food. So I got like 2 solid meals in me, and I left the house to pick up that grocery order. So I left the building. I breathed some fresh air for a couple minutes to do that. And also just like accomplishing anything. So like making dinner, washing our sheets, just doing like a simple task gets me out of being like totally frozen and stuck and feeling like I can't think straight and I can't accomplish anything, and I just get, like I said, I just get stuck in freeze mode. So I want to just keep the momentum going. I'm gonna head inside, get some food, try to start my morning a little bit slower and more relaxed. My main project today is starting seeds. I have loads of plants that I should have probably already started, so I'm sitting down to make soil blocks and sow seeds. This is another task that is very repetitive, so it can be very meditative. I can put a podcast on or listen to an audiobook while I'm doing this, and this is something that can help me mentally feel better. Time to prep some breakfast for the week. Breakfast can be an annoying meal for me, especially if I'm not feeling the best mentally or if things are stressful. I just really don't feel like food in the morning, and it's really tempting to skip it. But if I do that, I'm not setting my body up for success, and I'm not taking care of it if I'm not eating enough. So I prepped my favorite savory breakfast dish ahead of time this week to make things easier for future me. To start, I sliced up a white sweet potato in thin slices, put it in a casserole dish with coconut oil, and I am roasting that off to start. I also was multitasking and cooking some bacon while I did this. I chopped up a bell pepper, and now I am just cooking off some frozen spinach. I like to cook the spinach first and squeeze the moisture out of it because it keeps the casserole from getting soggy. I'm going to do the same thing with the peppers where I cook them first because it cooks off some of the moisture and again prevents the casserole from getting soggy. And then I just have to mix up my eggs. I usually do a dozen eggs per 9x13 pan. And then finally I just layer everything in there and pour the eggs over top. This is my go-to because I can mix up the ingredients really easily. I can do regular potatoes on the bottom. I could do no crust on the bottom. I can do sausage instead of bacon, and I can mix up the veggies as well. I cooked this at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for like 25 to 30 minutes until the eggs are totally set, and this is how it turned out. I had this for dinner and then cut up the rest into portions for breakfast for the rest of the week. While that was in the oven, I made a cup of tea and spent some time with one of my favorite silly little hobbies, paint by number. Big supporter of silly little hobbies around here. Whatever makes your brain happy, fully support. Thanks for coming along with me for a rough weekend battling my mental health. I've been really struggling lately, and for me that usually means I get stuck in freeze mode. You know, fight, flight, freeze. It can be really difficult to get out of, so even though it feels silly to call cooking a few meals and doing some basic tasks around my house an accomplishment, it really is huge for me to get this much done on a weekend where I'm intensely fighting depression and anxiety. It's worth it to fight through though, because I recognize that even though freezing is a self-preservation mechanism, being stuck there doesn't really help anybody, myself included. And I can't be someone who helps make good change in the world if I'm frozen. So that's been my goal right now, and it feels meager, but it's a start. I hope this encouraged you or made you feel seen. If you're struggling, you're not alone. Hang in there and be good to yourself. Until next time.